You're now tuned into Radical Radio with Coach L.
Switch my attitude. I'm so radical. 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 I'm so radical.
Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Saved Bae, aka Tremayne, aka Coach T, and I have a ministry called Slave Bible Ministry, where my misery and my pain is my ministry to women. What I do is I help women heal, be set free, forgive, walk in their kingdom purpose, heal from toxic relationships, break soul ties, and all the above. I'm here with you on your journey to purpose.
Hey guys, I'm Coach Tasha Delk. I help women who feel broken, who lack self-identity, and those who have low self-esteem. I help them to create an action plan to move forward with their healing to become their best selves. I am the owner and the CEO of Free Me Coaching, and this is where women break free to their true potential to become their most authentic selves. You can call me your identity coach. I desire for you to be bold, to be authentic, but most of all, to be you.
My name is Shonta Joseph, founder of She Wise. Our movement is to inspire women emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. God has called me to encourage women in faith, to identify self, to grow in forgiveness, and to break generational curses. To be a successful Christian woman, we must have wisdom each and every day. Our motto is Proverbs 4:5-13.
What's good, my radical people? This is LaDena Chisum, aka Coach L of the Radical Life brand, your spiritual life coach, helping you to become unapologetically bold and purposely authentic. I don't push dreams, I push purpose. Let's break some generational cycles.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome to Kingdom Chics Reconstructed, presented to you by Radical Radio. I'm Tremayne Winn, and we're gonna introduce our host, and then we're gonna jump into the subject of sexual soul ties.
Yes, guys, and I'm Tasha Delk. I do got my family with me. Y'all know how it is at this time. All right.
Shonta.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My computer's kind of lagging. My name is Shonta Joseph, and I am the founder of She Wise, and we are here to give you guys a good time.
What's good, y'all? Y'all already know this is Coach L. I'm so glad to be here with my sisters. Tonight is all about soul ties, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this discussion in. As we always say, we're just 4 Kingdom Chics reconstructed by God, all right?
All right, y'all. So last week we talked about the big S word in church, sex. So this week we're going to, which is kind of like a part 2 to piggyback off of what we spoke about last week. So one thing I want to ask y'all is, what do you think some of the consequences are of premarital sex in a soul tie aspect?
So for me, what I would definitely say, the consequences first is having kids. And then so that part right there in itself is already a whole lot. Y'all give me 1 second. That right there in itself is a lot, is it having children, and then also just the negative emotions.
Yeah.
that connect to you from that relationship. And I think that we fail to realize, the negative emotions that connect to us. And so those are some of the things that I would say as far as myself. And then just even the emotions for me,
Mm-hmm.
I would say like the insecurity that I had to overcome, those things that I had to deal with, is that I think those were some of the things that I had to, get over and overcome. So those were some of the things that attached to me through those premarital soul ties.
Before I answer, hey Jatera, hey Grace, hey Mary. Um, I want to say that for me, just knowing who like having that partner, you have to make sure
Yeah.
that you got the right one, like God has sent the right one, because some of us didn't choose right, and so now we are stuck in this situation. So definitely picking the right partner.
I would say I'm a walking billboard for consequences of premarital sex because I have kids outside of wedlock.
Right.
So I would say having to co-parent with this person that for a lifetime. A lot of people say, oh, to the age of 18 you just have to deal with the other party. That's for a lifetime. It ain't no till they're 18. It's for the rest of their lives, because what are you going to do when they get married, graduations, parties,
Grandkids.
anything. Like, you gonna be a part of this person's life for forever and ever and ever. So I think my biggest takeaway is, man, the consequence of this is a lifetime commitment I made for a few seconds of pleasure. So that's what I would take as a consequence of premarital sex.
Absolutely. I'll say just being unequally yoked with
Mm,
the person that you had premarital sex with, and
mm-hmm,
also not understanding that there's something called trauma bond. So the consequence
mm,
of you being unequally yoked with somebody, and also depending on what your dynamic was, especially if it was toxic, you would be
mm-hmm.
trauma bonded to that person, and it's very difficult to let go and release
Yeah.
yourself and move away from that bond that you have made.
Cool, cool. Okay. What point were you aware that you had a soul tie
Hmm.
within the premarital sex? I would say I can answer that. When did I realize aware? I was 10 years in when I realized I had a soul tie from premarital sex.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it happened when I actually wrote the book on it. That's when I realized I was soul tied to quite a few people, not just through premarital sex, but of course having kids outside of wedlock is when I realized, like, God, I really repeated the same cycle a couple of times, and now I'm just sitting in it, realizing, my decision, my choices for what I decided to do. So yeah, I was aware too late, too little, too long in a decade, 10 years, a decade when I realized it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can relate to you in so many ways. But definitely once I realized it was just constantly seeing myself in the cycles, and then getting to a point to where I didn't even know who I was.
Mm,
Right. So it got to the point to where my identity, the identity that I identify with, I didn't like,
mm-hmm.
and so it got so bad that I didn't know who I was. So
Yeah.
that for me was my wake up call. And then also, just finding myself in a situation where I could not let go. I constantly was going through the same thing, the same cycles over and over. And for me, it was 7 years and
Mm,
2 kids in. So it's just like when you
mm-hmm.
think about how like I said, when I sit and talk with my husband about some things, I be like, well, how do you allow yourself to go through certain things for so long, and then just kind of continue to go through the same cycles? And like, even though, you know it's not really, it's not like it's your fault, but it's like you didn't stand up for yourself. You didn't have enough boldness, and you didn't step
Mm-hmm.
into your power. You didn't know your worth. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that can go into why we continue to be in those cycles. But the
Mm-hmm.
sexual, the premarital the premarital bond that you have, that premarital sex, it really bonds you to that person, and you really don't understand. And then also, like you said, being tied to multiple different people. And I think that that's one of the things that is not being talked about. One of the things that people really fail to recognize, so for me, yeah, definitely just the cycles, being so far in, continuously going through the same thing and getting to a point to where I didn't even know who I was.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, likewise. When I first realized the soul tie, because obviously I was very young, didn't know much about nothing. I was realizing that I was this, well, I won't say innocent, but like when you're innocent as far as in being naive to things, and then you become like an angry person, and you're like, so you seeing the toxicity of the whole relationship, and seeing how the relationship is controlling you in a negative way. So like when I see myself getting out of character, when I see myself doing things that like I would never have done. At the time I was young, with my child's father, my oldest, I was sneaking out the house, banging on his mom door. It was a lot of like negative things that, as I look back, I'm like, yeah. Had that not been had we not had sex early, I probably would have remained innocent in that way, and not doing all those things that I did. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with Shantae, and ladies, if you're on here in the comments, if you want to answer the questions, you can answer the questions as well, just so we can keep a dialogue going with you all as well. I will have to agree with Shantae. I literally used to find myself like my whole attitude would shift. Like if we were arguing, if we were into it, my whole attitude would shift, and it would literally like take me out of character. I didn't want to talk to nobody. Don't talk to me. Don't say nothing to me. I had an attitude with everybody. So it just was, like you said, it kind of took me out of my character and really changed who I was, the total me. I can also say just, there was times where like I wouldn't speak to certain people because I felt like I didn't want to deal with an argument, or I didn't want to deal with an issue. So if it was a guy, I wouldn't speak to that guy, knowing that, he was cool. So it changed me. It changed me not only with the person that I was with, but it changed me with my surroundings, with people around me in my circle, changed me with my friends. So I would say, when did I know? I probably will say I had my first child at 17, and we have been together since around 13. So probably like 4 or 5 years in, I realized like, okay, this is something different. But I will say this, I didn't have a name for it. So I didn't have the name to say, oh, this is a soul tie. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have that knowledge to know what a soul tie was, but I knew that it felt weird and it was different.
Exactly. And we kind of went into my next question, which was what spiritual battles did you encounter because of soul ties? And Shantae had actually went on into it. I will say the spiritual battles I encountered was a lot of warfare, because when you connect with somebody else and you're just smashing your soul with them, whatever they got going on characteristic wise, I took on anger, I took on poverty, I took on and this is outside of my marriage, I just want to put that out there. I took on poverty, I took on witchcraft, I took on anger, I took on a porn addiction. I would be he had anxiety, I would get it all of a sudden. So it's like you're not just laying with them, you taking on their stuff. So you taking on their generational curses that you're not even aware of, that you're not even spiritually equipped yet, because you busy going through cycles. I was busy going through cycles. So I'm just thinking it's just bad luck. And I was so far in them disobedient streets. So I'm like, this is just what life is. Like, you get with somebody, you have a baby, things go left, and then you move on to the next, when really it was just cycles, and God was trying to, like, sis, like, this is really not who you are, but you've taken on so many people to where you just pulled every which way. and not even thinking about the people that they have slept with prior to you. You connect, you know what I'm saying? That's just soul ties, just everywhere, just a big mess. So, what do y'all think about the spiritual battles y'all encounter?
Girl. Oof.
Listen, what prophet Eve
First
say?
off,
Love is blind.
look,
Right.
you know what? First off, because you know what, the hard part about it for me was because I was such a firm believer in love, right? I
Yes.
just, I was so naive about what love is, and just this whole fairy tale type of
That part.
Disney
love.
messed us over.
Look,
Disney
look,
lied.
man, what
That's
you,
why I can't
baby?
stand Disney now.
Disney lied because they put, and I wasn't even trying to cut you off, Tasha, but Disney lied to me because that's what I thought, like you, like love and princess, just this beautiful
Yes,
thing, and
Yes.
they didn't show behind the
yes,
scenes. You know what I'm saying? So
Ain't
they
even
absolutely.
no
messed us up.
perfect happy ever after. That doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna say I would have to
perfect
say
ever
that it does
after.
exist. I do believe that it exists. I do believe that you can have that type of love, but I do believe that there is also a type of work that has to go into that type of love as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big dedication that has to
Yep.
go that has to go into
Her
it.
husband.
um but I think for me was the identity crisis,
Yes.
definitely the low self-esteem, definitely the anger, the misplaced anger, the anxiety, the
Mm-hmm.
depression, just so many like dark and ugly things, because like I said, I was a
Mm-hmm.
firm believer in love.
Mhm.
Definitely the
Mm-hmm.
porn addiction. That was something that I was talking to my husband about, that y'all, me and my husband, we talk about everything, so I'll reference that a lot, but we talk about things on such a deep level, because you never know what somebody had to battle prior to you. But definitely the misplaced anger was definitely something that I had to deal with. And then also just my heart, because I had such a Sonny, stop playing with those toys like that. Because I had such a heart that was just like pure, like I love people, just a genuine heart, a genuine love, or just, it's like sometimes people they don't really know how to take that love. And so everything around it is like, just they make it to be demonic, or they make it to be like it, you want something from them. So it's like all those different things that also tied into
Mm-hmm.
just my heart shifting and becoming
Mm-hmm.
hard and just feeling like I had to be cold. I
Oh
didn't,
God, yes.
for for a long time, like I had to relearn how to love. And there was still some things even now that God had been, I've been through sorry y'all to go home, be long-winded, but
Keep
I'm
going. Keep
going through
going.
a season of where God has been revealing me to me,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
Showing me myself, and and plucking things out of my heart, like things that
Mm-hmm.
I've picked up along the way. Okay, we got to take this away, we got to take that away. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the season that I've been in. And and then also something that I also had to overcome was rejection. Ooh,
Mm.
It's
baby,
big.
Jesus.
It's big.
that
Woo.
rejection is something like that. Y'all, it was so tough. And then also the silencing, feeling so silenced, like I didn't have a voice, that I couldn't speak up. And so now to be standing in my truth and where I am today, like, baby, whew, y'all. But yeah,
Listen.
so for me, those are some of some of the things that I've had to battle, the spiritual battles that I've had to face, throughout
Mm-hmm.
the because of that premarital sex.
Woo child, you hit a lot.
Yeah.
um, for me, definitely rejection. Um, my self-worth. I mean, I feel like I still deal with that as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
today, it's not completely, healed in that area, because I did feel like when you do have premarital sex, they're not that person is not obligated to you. So when you get crossed by that person, it feels like, oh, like it feels like a deeper type of hurt. I don't know how to explain it other than outside of that, but yeah, and something that wasn't mentioned, like stubbornness. Like I believe I had stubbornness in me, but it went to another level. And as I'm thinking about it, it's just like we both had issues, and they like double timed it. I don't know how to explain it. It just like it seemed like it got worse because he had daddy issues, I had daddy issues, and we was just two jacked up people that end up mixing soul ties together, and it just started to, just become worse, I guess. I don't know how to explain it outside of that. It's just
yeah.
That's good. I loved it. Everything that you all said is on point. Dree said soul equals mind, will, emotions. These are all a part of the soul ties. So question, how do these soul ties attack the will? Are you speaking the will of God? What is that what you're speaking of, bro? Let me know.
How do they attack the will?
Yeah,
I can answer that. If he's talking about the will of God through women, I can only speak through women.
So that's why I want him to clarify.
Is it the will of God or the will of the person that's in it?
Yeah.
So clarify the will of the individual, he says.
So how do these soul ties attack the will? Attack our will?
The will of the individual. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of in the aspect of like, how we just kind of stay in it. We continue to go in, we continue to stay in those cycles. And it's hard for us to break away from it because, for one, we haven't identified what it is that's keeping us, that's keeping us tied to that person or keeping us in that relationship. So I think, for one, it doesn't allow you to see clearly, to think clearly, really understand, and you accept things that you probably in your right mind, like me today, talking to my husband, like, how in the world did I allow myself to go through that? How in the world did I even survive half of the stuff that I survived to be able to love people, to still love people the way that I love people, to still, be able to have this open heart, to still, just even show love and compassion to that person.
Right.
Open to love.
And even to be able to be myself today and being open to being pricking those things away and taking those things away. So I think for me, that's kind of like has been my experience, and and some of in the ways that has stopped my will, or
to add to that, I think that we don't know the tools either. People always tell us what we supposed to do. We can get delivered by something, and then we get the same attacks like 7 times. And it's because we don't have the proper tools to help us with this, and the proper discipline to help us with the thing that is attacking us, because it's levels to it. It's not just identifying and getting delivered from it. You got to make sure that you don't continue those same cycles, and that comes with being disciplined and having the tools to avoid it.
I'll also add to that, the spiritual battles that I faced due to soul ties were domestic abuse, being in an abusive relationship for 12 years with my first person that I was with. We fought, and we had a toxic, abusive relationship. And we have to realize that it comes from, like Shonta was talking about, he had daddy issues, and then he had mama issues. And, it was a lot of things that he was going through. And here I am. I'm the person that wants to save everyone. I'm the person that wants to, I could help him through this. I could be there for him through this. And what it does is it actually enables that person to continue to do things to you that don't serve you. So for me, here I was in this battle of, abuse, and, dealing with rejection, and dealing with abandonment, and all of those spirits are root causes of low self-esteem, not being confident in who you are, not knowing who you are, being silent, not saying, what's really on your mind. So all of that. And then not to mention, my parents got divorced. So here I was dealing with the fact that my parents got divorced, but I didn't want my children to have to deal with a separation like I did. So I held on for the simple fact of, hey, I know what it did to me, so I don't want my children to experience that. A lot of us women, we get stuck and we stay for our children, not really understanding that staying for our children is the worst thing that we can do. But I'm going to go back to the trauma bond of it all. That's a battle in itself. You being bonded, and bonded by trauma. You know, there used to be a time where like I was used to like arguing, like I'm gonna argue with you, and then it's peaceful. You know, I think something's wrong because it's peaceful because I'm so used to arguing and fighting. So at the end of the day, like those are some of the battles that we face. Now, how it attacked my will, not knowing who I was. The things that I love, my favorite color, my favorite things, like I'm talking about, like this stuff will make you completely forget who you are, what you used to enjoy, what you used to like, who you are. Hell, your name, sometimes you'll be like, I don't even know who I am. They say my name LaDena, but that ain't how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it definitely like attacks your entire identity. And sorry, y'all, I just got to touch here. That is the trick and the plot and the scheme of the enemy. Period. Listen. So when we are embarking on these premarital sex, you know, and premarital sex and things like that, and getting, you know, tied to somebody who we're not equally yoked with, who we're not married to, that's what the enemy wants.
Yeah. I feel like I have rejection next, and I think we kind of touched on it. I feel like the enemy puts rejection in place because because we're women, we're nurturers, or based on our trauma in our childhood, that rejection will cause us to people please. Rejection will cause us to want to stay and fix them or give them more of us or take things that we would not normally take in a relationship. So I think everybody's will is different, hits different spirits. It's almost like the enemy has time release curses and spirits for certain times in your life for it to happen. I just threw a question in here because we touched on it almost last week, but I wanted to get a clear understanding for people that were watching again. For me, it was acceptance. Wow. Elena said for her, it was acceptance. Just wanting to be accepted and loved by the person that you're unequally yoked and soul tied to can have you being a whole different person that you never thought you would be. But child, can y'all hear me? Okay. I can't hear y'all.
I'll put myself on mute. Can you hear us now? Okay.
Okay. So what I want to say, what do y'all think the kingdom would look like if soul ties were taught in the 80s?
Oh, Jesus.
The kingdom of God. The reason I say that is because I feel like the enemy created soul ties to take out women. Because we're emotional creatures. So I feel like if he can get our emotions, he got everything else. He can control every area of us, every response, every thought, everything, right? So what do you think the church will look like? I think if the church taught the generation before me, which are my parents, I might think all our parents are the same age, possibly. I feel like there wouldn't be so many broken homes, so many fatherless homes. Yeah, I'm gonna just stop right there. I don't think there would be so many broken or fatherless homes in the kingdom, and I think people would be way more aware and knowledgeable about what happens when you do. Because back then in our parents' era, they swept things under the rug. They swept the cheating under the rug. They swept everything that was going on under the rug. That you might possibly be going to school with a sibling, right? Like a sibling that's the same age, like soul ties, what they create, what happens behind the scenes of it. Instead of making it look like marriages were perfect back then, or soul ties didn't exist, or if you're a Christian or you're in God, that nothing bad happens. I feel like if they would have touched on all this or told us the things that come with it, I feel like the kingdom of God right now will look a whole lot better family-wise, because that's what the enemy attacks, even through soul ties, is the family unit.
Yeah. And I like to add to what you're saying as far as like the attack on women, I definitely think that's also real, because we are the ones that create. you know,
Mhm.
and we're the ones that's able to, you know, have children and to give birth
Mhm.
and to birth things out. And then
Mhm.
also as women, we're also the prophets of our home. So we're the ones that usually cultivate and speak things into life and to raise things up, right? And so as to nurture things and to allow things to be able to flourish, you know. So for me, I definitely think that, but I think that it's not just our parents. I think it's the
Mhm.
generation before our parents.
Mhm.
And I feel like that generation, so our grandparents, I think that's the generation there that dropped the ball. That, and
Yeah.
then from there, because of the sweeping under the rugs, because of the
Mhm.
allowing things to happen and keeping things that, you know, that was happening in the family, keeping that stuff, you know, secret and private, and instead of dealing with those things, I think
Mhm.
that's where the ball was dropped. And then also
Yeah.
I feel like it would, I think that it would be a lot, I think that it will be a stronger foundation as far as the kingdom of God. But
Mhm.
I truly believe that everything happened the way that it happened because now is the time that God is raising people up and calling people back to him.
Absolutely.
So I think that I believe that we're in a time to where right now where God is raising us up, and you know, this generation, you know, us, well, I would say what from probably about, I'll say about the 80s going forward, you know, us
Mhm.
eight by 85 and up, you know, I think God is
Mhm.
calling us right now
Mhm.
to come up, and I think that there's a lot that's going on as far as young people,
Mhm.
God is raising up, you know. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of
Absolutely.
my thought process on that.
Someone said church condemnation would be extremely reduced. Absolutely, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Um, can you please repeat the question so I can make sure I'm targeting the
Oh,
right answer?
okay. What would the kingdom look like? I just slid that one on in there. What would the
Oh, you're
kingdom
good.
look like if soul ties were taught in the 80s era, like our parents' era? Like how
Mhm.
would that look right now for us today?
I do believe that it would have been a better choice of um searching for individuals that they would be compatible with, and not just, you know, people that they're accepting and
Hmm.
people that, like, I don't know how to explain it outside of, you know, when you meet somebody, like actually filtering them out, making sure that God is
The center of
telling
it.
you that this person is
Hmm.
for you. I think it
Hmm.
would have been a better choice of spouses to,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, that's just a hypothetical type of thing. Um,
Hmm.
or I also feel as if it would have been a lot of accountability. It wouldn't be a lack of accountability at the time,
Hmm.
because now that I have this information, how am I applying it? And then the people that I'm connected to, you have to hold me accountable to the things, because I know what is to come if I do this. So
Hmm.
if I have, you know, my friends and I got family members that's not just judging me, but they're letting me know that this is what can happen because of, you know, if I make this choice or whatever the case may be, but just holding each other accountable as well.
Cool, cool.
So Dree said helpmates would be more effective and aware of the battles laid out before them. The men would be required to exercise discipline. And
Oh
thank you,
my
brother.
God on
That's
high.
exactly
Thank
where
you,
I was
Mr.
going.
Joseph.
I was going to say, not necessarily if they taught soul ties, but if they taught more self-control. Self-control is a fruit of the spirit, and
Hmm.
self-control is one of those hard things to do, you know, to control yourself. And it goes back to Romans 8:13, where it talks about if you are living according to your flesh, you'll die, versus,
Hmm.
you know, living according to the spirit, then you can kill the misdeeds of your body. It just goes back to understanding like who you are and whose you are. Our flesh means us no earthly good. Like anything that we're feeling, emotions and things like that, it means us no earthly good. So that's why we always want to be led in the spirit. So I just feel like it's not necessarily if they taught us soul ties, but if they taught us self-control and if they taught us about dying to our flesh daily. Even as a young person, they can understand what self-control is, and they can also understand what it means to die to your flesh. They can understand that when you have emotions are not of God. He wants us to look into the spirit realm. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, yeah, to Tasha's point, I feel like our grandparents, and I can say this about my grandparents, because I feel like this, y'all. I grew up in church. My grandfather was a pastor. And I think during that time, they probably didn't realize that there was going to be a shift. Just like in this era, right? There has been a shift in how our kids navigate and how this generation navigates. So in order for you to understand and be able to deal with them, you have to understand the shift. And I believe back then they didn't understand the shift. That's why you had so many teen parents coming back. You know what I'm saying? When they were dealing with teen pregnancy, it was out of survival. It wasn't out of lust, if I could say it like that. Yeah. So I just feel like, as Tasha said, I feel like the older generations, they did fail in ways of just not shifting to understand. And that's why it's so big for me that we understand what's going on with our with our newer generations, instead of just telling them what not to do. We got to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, you went into the next question. What advice would you give to the youth of this generation concerning sex and ungodly soul ties? I told my daughter, because we're in a house where we introduce God to her, every household is not the same. So maybe I should change it to where, what would you tell kids that don't have parents at home that can talk to them about sex before marriage, or they don't have that mentor, that pastor, they're not a part of a church? What would you tell them concerning soul ties, sex before marriage?
So for me, oh girl, that's a good question. I would have to say that there is more protection in waiting than you could ever get by, going forward and actually experiencing sex and having sex. And also it's just like, even like, so I wrote an ebook, is a celibacy ebook, and my husband and I, and it's called Yes Ladies I'm Celibate, shameless plug, but it's called Yes Ladies I'm Celibate. And I think that having the conversation is not easy, but it's definitely necessary. And I think that we could truly save a lot more young girls from going through a lot of the things that we experienced. And just by really telling them, like, I think it's more protection in waiting. God protects us. God isn't telling you to wait until marriage to hurt you or to harm you or to make you feel like you're missing out on something. But it's really to protect you of all the things that's attached to having sex by before marriage. And so that's really a good question though, because it's like it's really heartfelt, as in what your answer would be, because or how to really answer that, because it's like I could think of so many things of how would I have taken it being a young girl, having somebody really come to me and talk to me about this. I think that it really, I first I'll say, I think that I would have been receptive because I I yearned for somebody to look up to, in that aspect. But I think it would definitely depend on how like how willing the young girl is to, and as far
Yeah.
as you can, as far how you could go deeper into it. But definitely just letting her know that sex is the gift of marriage, and it's not it's not for it to be played with. It's so much more that's connected to it than you can even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I told my daughter that she is not spiritually equipped to handle the consequences or the spirits that will attach itself to her if she lays with someone with that she's not married to. And when I tell you, her eyes was like, well, what you mean? Yes, you can, like, if you open yourself up to somebody, if you decide to go down that road, okay, you're gonna deal with this, and this rejection. You might have a baby. You might inherit all his issues. You don't know what you're gonna deal with just from laying down with somebody. You will never be the same again when you get up. It's pretty much what I told her. You will never be the same again. You might feel different. You may feel like, oh, I'm a woman now, but that's not what it's gonna be. It's some things behind the scenes that you're not even ready for.
Absolutely, absolutely, that's real.
Assuming that me and this young lady is like I'm already coaching her, I would go to the traumas that she potentially experienced, or the things that's happened in her life or her mother's life or anything like that, and go down there and just ask herself, was she is she willing to go through the same cycle, potentially bringing a child forward in this world with the
Mm-hmm.
same issues that she may have felt. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel as if when we take a look of ourselves and our feelings and our emotions, and if it feels too like overwhelming or weighty, we don't
Mm-hmm.
really want to give that to somebody else, especially not our child. So
Yeah.
I would refer to that, or reference to that. Not only do that, but let them understand, like, it's so much more, and you don't have to, in the things that you're curious about in that area,
Mm-hmm.
ask. You don't have to necessarily be one of those people that have to have the experience in order to get the understanding, but you can
Mm-hmm.
definitely ask questions, and then just open up the doors of it, further explaining as far as in what's like what we're doing right now, soul ties and the things that comes with that. But i
Mm-hmm.
would i would be open and honest, because I'm open and honest with my own child. So if
Mm-hmm.
we don't do that, then they're going to continue to seek for other things and get their
Mm-hmm.
answers from other people. So it's just best
Mm-hmm.
to keep it real.
And I have to agree. I see it from two different angles though. I feel like sometimes we got to be very careful of, telling young ladies, um, I think we have to be careful of telling young ladies like, God wants you to wait, like Tasha said, it's more protection and waiting, because we have to remember everything that we're up against when we're having these conversations, because when they got that nappy hair boy in their ear, and that
Mm-hmm.
boy is telling them everything that they feel like they need to hear, regardless if that young lady has a father at home and a mother at home that has prepared her for understanding who God has called her to be, talking to
Mm-hmm.
her about, like, they can do all of that and she
Mm-hmm.
will still choose to make that decision to go left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I would talk to a young girl in the way of her being a woman and understanding what it means to be a woman. Are
Mm-hmm.
you able to cover this man? Are you able to, pray for this man? Are you able
Mm-hmm.
to take on this man's characteristics and take on, all of the curses that he has in his family, and, the things that you see him dealing with? Are you able to take and carry those?
Yeah. Ooh,
Because
that's
if you're
heavy.
able to carry those, then okay. But if you ain't able to carry that, baby, you ain't gonna be able to carry having sex with him. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the end, having sex with him is like him giving you a gift of all of that stuff that he has. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
having a real, like Shantae said, being real, I'm really big on peeling back the onion. We gotta
Yeah.
go back down memory lane for
Mm-hmm.
you, your mama, your mama's mama and your mama's mama's mama for real. Because if your mama ain't never been married, and then your granny ain't never been married, and then Big Mama wasn't married, and then this person wasn't married, Boo Boo Kitty, I need you to understand that it's time for you to break the cycle. So when you get married, the odds are against you that you would stay married because you have a long lineage as far as you know back that weren't even married. So again, having a real conversation, let me tell you what warfare is. This is warfare, and this is what it looks like when you decide to get married and ain't nobody in your family ever showed you the example of a healthy marriage. So really opening up a real dialogue about marriage and what it would look like when you lay with another guy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we need to stay on that.
So true.
Right.
That's so true.
I'm just like, I've had conversations, but let me can I be real quick?
Yeah.
My daddy
be real.
Me one thing, y'all. Like, my daddy was like, "How many people you been with?" And I was like, "One." And he was like, "Oh, okay." He was cool with that because I wasn't a hoe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, you know,
I can say the same.
So, you know what I'm saying? So people are really not even equipped to really have these in-depth conversations and be real with themselves. Like, I'm gonna be real about me first, because I need y'all to see who y'all mama is before y'all go and y'all do this over here. And it's a lot different because I have boys, you know what I'm saying? Y'all have ladies, so you know, if my nieces, my cousins come over, hey, come over here, because it get real raw and real. We can talk about God, but I also know that y'all got a little, you know, little nappy head boy in y'all ear too. So yeah.
Listen,
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Listen, my next question was, but I guess we can stay on the generational curse part. And also, because the kids are young, let's be real. I have a 16-year-old. She's about to be 17. And me and my husband had found out last year that she was watching porn, right? That she's a virgin still, but she's watching porn. So my question was to y'all, what do you think is porn an open door to soul ties? Because remember, you can be soul tied to food, to a place, to a person, a thing. And it was hard for her to stop watching it. It's like she would want to go back. And, you know, she not knowing that if you go back to it, even though we sat down and we talked to you about it, if you go back, you're inviting 7 other spirits to come with it. It's going to be twice as hard. So what do you think porn opens the door to soul tie wise, or just spirit wise in general, to youth that say, hey, I'm straight because I'm not having sex. That girl or that boy, hey, I'm not having sex, but I'm watching porn. You know, so at least I'm not doing the physical thing. I feel like it's the same thing, if not worse. That, you know, you, like, what did Apostle Stevenson say? You might as well have performed the act, because you are watching it and you opening up your soul to your spirit to it anyway. So I think porn opened the doors to a lot of spirits that we not even ready for. Incubus and succubus, we can get that deep into it, because that's the spirits, that causes sexual dreams. Absolutely. Am I saying it right? Yeah. Spirit spouses, things like that. So what do y'all think?
Absolutely. It definitely opens the door to the spiritual spouses, and that's something that I had to also overcome. That was something that I also had to overcome. So I know all too well about those different things that are added, but also we have to understand that we're not raising children. You know, we're raising adults. So the way that we have to talk to them, yes, on their level, you know, on the level that they're on, into the way that they can understand it, but definitely being truthful to understand that we're raising adults. So you having that conversation, you know, us having these conversations with our children and with our families and nieces and nephews, having these conversations, it is necessary, you know, but I definitely feel like it opens the door to a lot of things that we are not even aware of, you know, and just those different type of spirits, and having to be delivered from spiritual spouses, and having to the deliverance that you have to go through to get that stuff off of you and out of your mind. And of course you're going to want to go back to it, because that's the whole point. The enemy doesn't, he want to keep you in your emotions and tied to pleasing your flesh, and so just like LaDena said earlier, it's definitely is, we have to get to a point to where we're submitting our emotions to God, that sexual emotion, that the desire, the lust, all that stuff has to be submitted to God, because in self-control aspect, that also falls into that, because it takes a lot more to be delivered from that stuff than actually committing the act, doing it
You
yourself.
right.
Like,
You right
literally.
about it. You better say that.
That's so okay.
Read your husband's question.
Okay, husband, can I ask the question after the question is answered? Yo, you said we're reading right now?
No, you go ahead and answer your question. He's answer your question, then read his.
Oh my goodness, y'all know how he coming. Y'all know how he coming. But I would say, like, let's be real right now, and we just having real conversations. Obviously, if you watch TV and you see any food commercial and you ain't ate, you getting hungry by it. So when you watch porn, if you never had sex, that give you a sense of curiosity, because you're seeing something that's never been done. And I have seen porn before, and it made me feel some type of way. So it's not it's kind of hard to say that, like, oh, it's nothing. It's always something. It's always something. It can go into sexual pleasure by your, like, individual pleasure, then it can leak over to sex, because you're curious about how it feels and why this person is doing this, and it leads to curiosity. So I think when we are realistic with ourselves, because we are human beings, with the things that we see, we desire it. We do desire it.
Absolutely.
So we have to be careful what we see through our eye gates, because that can affect our soul and the things that we desire to have. And it's not necessary because, oh, we want to do it. It's because of the things that we have seen.
Absolutely. Also, the spirit of perversion. The spirit of perversion is something that is, I think, that people really don't really talk about enough. And then I think in the church, I think that's kind of been something also that we have been misled on, is the spirits that attach to you from these certain things.
And she cut out.
Devil is a lie.
The devil is a lie. Yeah, until she get back on, I think porn in general, just even with youth watching it in marriages, outside of marriages, I think porn can ruin your realization concerning sex with your spouse, with your future spouse. It can ruin the whole aspect of the moment, the intimacy. It can just make it all sexually immoral, to be honest.
I agree.
And that's the thing. Tremayne and I were having a conversation. We were talking about how in the Bible, he's the Lord is always talking about sexual immorality. He's talking about more about sexual immorality than he's talking about the sex with a married couple. You know what I'm saying? So there is something to be said about sexual immorality in, the utilizing of porn. Like Tremayne said, I truly, truly believe when you're getting the stimulation from porn, you really don't know what true intimacy is. So now you're having sex from a moral standpoint versus a spiritual standpoint.
Exactly.
It derails you from the purpose that God has ordained sex when you're watching porn and things like that. So for me, it would be more so of letting young people know about your eyes and your eye gates, just like your ear gates. I tell them all the time, you have to think about it. When you're talking about porn or when you're talking about music, I have to break it down to young people like this. You have to think about what the person behind the camera was doing and what their motives were and how they were feeling at the time. You have to worry about the people that are in the scenes. You have to worry about the music that's playing. You have to worry about everything, because everything has something attached to it that comes to, this particular thing, just like music. You have to think about it. Like if somebody is on drugs and they have made a beat for you to rap on. You have to think about all those spirits that are in that one song. You know what I'm saying? So spirits transfer very easily, and especially through your eye gates and through your ear gates.
Yes, definitely can.
And I think Adri said something. He said stimulates the appetite. Eyes are the gateway to the soul. So the soul. Yeah.
Eve,
most definitely.
Eve is the perfect example of it.
Yeah. And I do agree. Well, Dries asked a question too about, do grown women fight this? Absolutely. I've known people that, they've never really had a true intimate interaction. They've only had sex. Reason being is because they've learned about sex through what? Through porn. So watching porn, they think what they see on porn is really how you're supposed to be. So that's why we have a lot of women that they get married and they don't know how to be intimate with their spouses at all.
Their husbands. Because some husbands they watch porn.
Yeah, or you have women that are not in tune with their femininity at all, and they don't even know how to be feminine because they've been watching something that's not giving them what they truly need for the spiritual aspect of being with their partner or their husband, I would say.
That's probably why people think that sex is bad and don't want to talk about it in church and stuff due to how people are getting introduced to sex if it is a negative type of way.
Making it perverse, yeah. Tasha, you back? You want to finish what you were saying?
Yes. Girl, it's okay. It's okay. I don't even remember where I left off. My laptop died.
Wow. Any questions in the comments that they want us to answer?
It just says, Dree said, question, don't grown women struggle with this? How do you have that conversation with a grown woman fighting this, especially elders? Like the great prophet said, bodies on bodies on bodies on bodies. Girl, you getting sloppy. You funny.
You can answer your husband.
I do, when I'll say this for me, because I have not had like a lot of partners, I do feel like when you get into that realm of having bodies on top of bodies on top of bodies on top of bodies, there is a really deep dive that has to go on for you to understand yourself and understand your self-worth and understand that you may not be operating and loving yourself wholeheartedly. You may not know who you are. Because I'll be honest, when you don't know who you are, you take a lot of stuff and you be searching to find the right thing. And that'll leave you with bodies on bodies on bodies. Because you're literally like searching for that feeling, and you never can quite get that feeling if you don't know who you are, and you don't even know really what that feeling is that you're searching for.
Right. My life, girl. Yeah. That used to be me.
Yeah.
No, that's real. That's real. And I think that a lot of times, is we don't understand that God is what fills that something that we're searching for, that we're yearning for. And for me, because I've had multiple partners prior to marriage. And so my thing is that I didn't know who I was. Right. And that was the thing. And it was like, even though I knew God, I continued to do these things because I was the soul ties. But once I really started learning who I was, and I was like, I'm a wife. I'm not somebody just, I ain't finna, I'm not somebody's side chick. I'm not somebody this. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So you really, even though I'm not nobody's side chick, but but I'm just saying, like, you gotta go through those things and really understand, like, you're none of those things that you're looking for and that you're attaching yourself to. Absolutely. And so going through that and then getting to a phase to where it was like, after I was in a relationship for 7 years, and then I started just really like, okay, I can't do this. I got to really start learning who I am. I got to really get out here. I started dating. And then once you get into the dating scene, it's like, from being in a relationship for so long, it's like everybody trying to have sex. You know what I'm saying? Everybody like that's how they date. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? I literally like just went to this guy's house. This is my first time. You know, this is my first time hanging out with him. He was being real persistent. This is my first time hanging out with him. And it was just like he thought we was finna be on that. I'm like, whoa, this is my first time, being around you. And it's just like he like, well, yeah, I'm like, no, and so after that, the next guy I date, same thing. Next guy, now
Yeah.
this guy a liar, this guy is. So it's like you really, I think that it's okay to date without having that sexual aspects in it.
Absolutely.
And that's
So you can
how
see
you
clearly.
yeah, you really get to see like, okay, I definitely can't deal with him because he a liar. Okay,
Mhm.
he got this going on. I don't want that.
Absolutely.
Okay, he this, he that, he that. You know what I'm saying? It allowed me to be able to say, okay, no for him, no for him, no for him, no for him.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just done. I'm just done dating dudes. I'm just good. I'm good. But it gives you that ability to stay in your mental, to stay straight on and not just accept whatever. A
Mhm.
lot of times we see the red flags, but we don't actually acknowledge the red flags because we've
Yeah.
already had sex with that person and got that sexual soul tie. And now we can't even get past the fact that this a fool. You dating a whole fool.
Yeah. And can we
Listen.
be real and say, and I'll ask y'all, can we
Mhm.
be real? Can a female really go out and smash the way that these men go out and smash?
Absolutely not.
Yes,
We
they
gotta stop
can.
acting like we
I
can do
tried.
what
They
they
do.
do.
Let me say
They
I
They they
do.
tried.
They do
they
it.
Well,
do it.
They
are you
They
do
talking
do
about
it.
it.
get criticized
But
for it?
they no, they do it, but they can't handle it. You
No.
cannot, as a female, I don't care
Yeah.
who you are. You can sit
Yeah.
and act like you can handle it. You can act
Too
like
much
it's
work.
Right.
cool, but on the inside, somewhere there is something that is going to come up out
Yeah.
of you feeling
Absolutely.
like you can just go, have sex with this person and cut
Yeah.
them off and not deal with them no more. Women are not equipped. We're not.
Not built
We're
like
not
that.
We are
made to
receivers,
do things like that.
right? We
Not
are
built like that.
receivers. We're not the givers. We
Yeah.
are the
There
receivers.
you go. There you
But
go.
I do feel like a lot of women they do that,
Mhm.
and I've witnessed it myself.
Mhm.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen it, and it's like I'm like, how can you do that? Like how?
Mm-hmm.
I
Like how
I
can you
think
just
yeah. Yeah.
how?
I'm listening. I'm sorry. I'm just in my head talking back to you,
No,
I
but
think
look,
you
I,
should.
I
but it
have, let me
happens
tell you
though.
something. It does happen. I have seen it and I have tried. Let's be real. I'm very transparent. I have tried it, and I feel like the only way that a woman can do that is if she is completely cut off emotionally. She has taken
Exactly.
on the
Exactly.
facade of a masculine man, has
Mm-hmm.
been hurt so much till she's turned into a female narcissist.
Cold heart.
That's the only way
Absolutely.
Heart of
she can
steel.
operate in it.
Absolutely.
No emotion.
None.
Exactly.
And
That's the
I'll
only
tell
way.
you too, if you do, like for instance, I had a moment, but it was so short lived because I was like,
It
that's
is
not even
too.
me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's not who
Yeah.
I am. So I could
Yeah.
no. And that's the thing. Dree said women aren't built like that. We just had this conversation, Shantae. He also asked the question, what does real intimacy look like? Godly intimacy.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah,
That's a
that's a
good
good
question.
question. I think my husband and I was just talking about this.
Yep.
I think like godly intimacy is really like prayer, like being able to cover your husband in prayer, being able to have my husband cover me in prayer.
Girl, it ain't nothing
Um,
like a praying husband now.
look, honey, look, I'm telling y'all, it's been like days where I be like flat out and my husband be like go into prayer like that. One of the questions that I asked is like um could you, if you were going through something, like if you were on your deathbed, your husband, your mate that you're with right now, would you trust them to cover you, right? Because you trust them to cover you and see you through. So it's like
Mhm.
really that's, to me, that's what intimacy looks like. But it also is communication on a level to where you still have oneness, but there's individuality and there is
Mm-hmm.
identity behind that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to be open and vulnerable,
Yeah.
to me is what like godly intimacy looks like. I would have to say is just really knowing that I can be carefree with my husband
Yeah.
and not be judged, whatever aspect,
That's it.
whatever that look like for me.
And
You
that's
know
the
what I'm
Yeah.
thing.
saying?
Intimacy don't have nothing to do with sex.
Sex.
No.
Say that again.
That's the biggest thing. Intimacy has nothing to do with sex. Like Tasha just said, listen, it is something to be said when you can totally be vulnerable, like
Mm-hmm.
not have anxiety. I'm gonna be transparent. I sometimes have a lot of anxiety when it comes to having a conversation. You know what I'm saying, with my spouse, because of our differences of opinions. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, to me, that's a form of bondage when you
Mm,
can't be totally transparent and extremely vulnerable with the person that you're married to and connected to.
absolutely.
So I feel like, when you're with someone, to be able to be whole and be yourself in the person that God has called you to be, and you guys both kind of like marry, your purpose is married to one another, like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, it's something about that. That's
Yeah.
intimacy. That's godly intimacy to me.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your husband kiss you on the forehead.
Right.
That's a protective, move right
Yeah.
there. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
intimacy. As I said before, into me you see. I need you to see into me, not
Mm-hmm.
not this, not my face, not because I'm cute. Yeah, not because you cute. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Not because you're funny. All that
Yeah.
is superficial. I need
Right.
you
Mm-hmm.
to see into me. I need you to see my soul. And I need
Mm-hmm.
you to be I need you to be very concerned about my soul.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, me and Dries, we went to our cousin's wedding last year, and they basically they neither one of them have kids, and if I'm not mistaken, they're both were virgins, and they never
Amen.
kissed. They just held
Wow.
hands. Um, when they got married, that's literally the time that they actually moved in together, like after the wedding.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like the closest thing of a godly intimacy. Their wedding was their actual first kiss. That was their first time kissing each other.
Wow.
That
That's
is so
amazing.
It
sweet.
was
That's
so
amazing.
beautiful, and just to witness that and just to see how pure that was. He was ready to tear her down right after the reception. But
Girl, look, okay.
Listen.
but I was like, this is like pure
Yes.
love at its finest, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So I was so glad that I got a chance to experience that with my own two eyes, because
Absolutely.
you can hear stories like that and it's like, but I literally watched them get married and see this
Yeah.
beautiful union come together, and I just knew it was God. So I think that right there was the closest thing that I have ever. Someone wants to leave my cuddy out of this. It was beautiful. I'm saying it in a beautiful way, but
Yeah.
that's the first time that I ever seen something like that done like that, and I can tell that it was godly.
Yes,
Ooh.
that's good.
Your husband
Absolutely.
said, "Who controls intimacy? Who is responsible for deep intimacy?" The husband. I feel like the husband controls the intimacy.
Hmm.
That's just
Mm.
me.
I would say both.
Yeah. I
I
think
would
it's a
say
responsibility for both.
it's reciprocating
Yeah, for sure.
the intimacy. It has to come both ways, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so too, because I was just talking to my husband about this earlier. It's like, because even as men, like, okay, we were talking about like ego, and and I was saying like, even as women, sometimes we have to stroke our husband's ego, and
Mm-hmm.
and being that is because their ego is just as sensitive as our emotions or our hearts, and so being in that position to where I think that we also have to have those create those outlets for our husbands, as well as, you know, them creating that intimacy for us. So I think it's definitely both ways. And you said ego strokes are required. But like, you know, but I think that it's healthy in a way, you know, and it also, you know, because men, they want to feel like they have that safe space as well, even though it may go unspoken, you know, but they appreciate that as well, I feel like.
I'm interested in knowing why you said just well, the husband is supposed to be in control of the intimacy.
The first question he said, "Who controls it?" I feel like the husband kind of sets the tone for it, and the second question, I feel like it's for us, like the deep level of intimacy.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I can see that as well. I think, but I definitely think it goes both ways. I think just having that outlet for, you know, the husband as well as the wife, just
absolutely,
I agree with
to
you,
be
Tasha.
able to be intimate.
He keeps telling you to go deep.
Go deep. Go deep. Keep pulling.
We're deep. I can't go deep. Not
Keep
today.
pulling, boy. You pulling good, bro. Yeah, I would say like what Tasha said though. I you know had the conversation, you know, with Jason, and he's been, you know, he'll say things like, you know, men have feelings too, you know, and we have to acknowledge that men do have feelings. But I think it's, you know, just society driven where we just kind of like don't take men's feelings and their vulnerability into consideration. Well, some, you know, some women don't take it into consideration. And I at one time I struggled with that, you know, just because he's just such a hard person. So when you know, like around a hard person, you like, what? You feel something, you know? But I think we need to explore that a little bit more. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, guys, it's 9:16. We're over. We're
over time. I think we
did
great.
We broke it down and we went deep for you, Mr.
Yeah,
Joseph.
I hope this was a good topic for you all.
Amazing.
Yeah, we haven't gotten any. I did give y'all the wrong email address last week. It is Kingdom Chics Reconstructed at gmail.com. So if you do have any topics, questions that you want us to ask while we go live, please email us at Kingdom Chics Reconstructed. That's Kingdom CHICS Reconstructed at gmail.com. We'll be happy to go over any topics that y'all send us or ask any questions that y'all have for us. We love the fact when everybody gets on and y'all have, you know, comments and y'all are engaging in the conversation with us. Drees, you are the MVP of Kingdom Chics Reconstructed. Bro, we thank you so much for jumping on here every single
day. Listen, don't give him too much clout because he already thinking he finna hop on our platform.
He's definitely gonna hop on because I'll say this. I went to the podcast festival this past weekend, and there is a gentleman. There's a gentleman that he talks, you know, about holding men accountable and things like that. So I asked him, I said, hey, so I told him about, you know, the series that we're doing. I'm like, would you want to come on and, you know, talk to the women? And he said, absolutely. So Tasha, tell Cleo he want to jump on, you know, he can jump on if he wants to. Hey, we just gonna have a nice little conversation with the guys one day if they want to come on. Yeah, we'll open that up. Good, you know, it's open to us, and you know, so if we want the guys to come on, we can. Okay. All right.
Absolutely, y'all. I be getting him to come on my other meetings. Well, you know, every once in a while. He's done it like once before, but yeah.
That's what's up. So yeah.
Okay. I'm here for it.
Well, thank you all for joining us. As always, we will be back next Monday with another hot topic. Y'all make sure that y'all log in, tune in. If you miss it, we will be sharing the podcast link, so you can go ahead and you can listen to the podcast on all podcast platforms, or you can go to any one of our pages to see this broadcast replay. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Bye, saints. See y'all next week.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.